Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Thank you for joining us on your first trip to Malta since you've departed.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure to welcome you here.
Thank you. It is a privilege to be back. It is always good to be here.
What brings you to Malta?
Well, as I think about where I was happiest and as I've come off of a very long and grueling assignment, I wanted to have my spirits lifted by the sunshine and the warmth that I find here in Malta.
And how will you be spending your time in Malta?
Well, I'll be visiting friends, of course, and eating very well, of course. And I was really delighted that Malta Fashion Week is this week as well, so people might catch me at a fashion show or two. And visiting the sites of Malta, amazing history that I always enjoyed while I was here and look forward to revisiting.
You've spent the last few years in the United States, lately as Chief Diversity Officer in the Department of State. What was your experience of doing this? At one point you were also Chief Executive.
Yeah. So running this office and doing it for an organization of over 75,000 people was my greatest career challenge, in all honesty. And keeping in mind that while most of our American staff is in the United States, our largest proportion of staff is around the world. So I did 18 overseas trips in the last 2.5 years as well, because our staff is there. I would say the combination of amazing leadership from the Secretary and support for the work, but also a demand from our workforce. We are looking for workplaces that are equitable, that people have a level playing field as they try and reach their full potential professionally. And we wanted to ensure that it is a workplace where we are supportive of each other. So it's a culture change because we are highly competitive, a culture change.
What will you be doing in the future? I mean, you're very switched on, you're very active and proactive. What will you be doing in the future with your career?
Yeah, well, my husband says slow down, but there we are. I intend to continue to work in the space of DEIA with other companies to help them get where we all want to be. I will probably be doing a lot of volunteer work as well. I do a lot of career coaching for those who are coming behind. I often say we've got to pay it forward. All the people who helped me in my career, I've got to do that for others. And then there'll be a couple of professional opportunities that I'll be pursuing as well.
When we allow bias to hold back capable people from developing their skills, building their careers, making their fullest contribution, we are failing to deliver the best team for the American people. We have a responsibility to make sure that everyone who should be at the table is at the table. I can't think of anyone better to move us toward that goal than Gina. I'm so glad she's taking on this mission. Gina?
Can you share some insights about the last few years when you worked at the Department of State under Anthony Blinken? How were your experiences with him and what is he like?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I will say is that his support and focus on this mission was amazing. Many people in my position as Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer don't have that kind of support from the boss, as it were. So we met on a regular basis. He was very intent on the meetings. He was very incisive with his questions about what I had accomplished and what I intended to do next and where did I need him to speak, to support, etc. So that relationship was very close and very mutually supportive. I smile as I think about that question because as a woman, speaking very frankly, we have to navigate professional spaces where we're not always expected, and diplomacy, of course, is very male-dominated, and we do it, and we've got to sartorially present ourselves in a powerful position, but also one that doesn't put people off. And I used to smile because Secretary Blinken wears the same style suit and tie every single day.
Wow.
Look at his public appearances.
He must have a lot of ties.
I'm not going to speculate,
color,
but I suspect he does.
Yes.
So when you look at that, and I thought, oh my goodness, He's making it so easy.
So
But
it's
we
nearly,
can't do that.
It's nearly like branding, isn't
Yes.
it?
Like Mark Zuckerberg with the T-shirt, and
Yes.
or Steve Jobs, Secretary Blinken. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'll take more notice when I see him. Yes. You came to Malta, you were posted to Malta during the presidency of Barack Obama. And then you served the United States during 2 other presidencies, Joe Biden and before that, Donald Trump.
Yes.
How would you describe the 3 different styles of presidency?
You know, I think each of us will take something different from those 3 men. Different things that we like about them, that we notice about them. What I would say is that all 3, like any good politician, are very charismatic. You cannot be successful at the most important job in the country without that. And so that ability to draw people in and excite them and inspire them to follow what you are saying is the mission of the nation is something that they equally share. Obviously, the entire world has been able to observe the temperament of each of them, which has been very different, yes.
Absolutely. And going forward, you're being very diplomatic.
Yes.
Going forward, I mean, we're on the verge of preparing for another US election.
Yes.
How do you think that will span out?
Well, as you can see, the candidates are gathering on the Republican side, as they did in 2016. I believe it's going to be a very lively election period, as it has already begun to be. I know we've got at least 6 declared candidates on the Republican side. I'm hoping that the American people, that we're going to pay a great deal of attention to not only what the candidates are saying, but what they've done, because as I think it was Maya Angelou who said, when people, you know, show you who they are, believe
Absolutely.
them. So we've got to really watch what we've seen. I'm hopeful. This has been a very difficult period in American history. We are often divided on social issues that many people thought were settled long ago. And we have to decide, what kind of country do we want? So this upcoming election is going to be of great import, great import.
Thank you. You've held some very high-profile diplomatic postings throughout your career. Can you talk us through the highlights?
Well,
you must have a lot.
U.S. Ambassador to Malta, highlight.
It's an honor to be the personal representative of President Barack Obama to your great nation. The United States and Malta have a special relationship that is as old as the United States itself, ever since Maltese sailors helped secure victory in the Battle of the Chesapeake, a battle that was instrumental in securing the independence of the United States. Our countries have worked together in times of trial and in times of triumphs.
You know, it's what when you join as a young diplomat, you are aspiring to that position. To represent the American people abroad is just the highest privilege. So that's number 1. I would say a couple of other things come to mind when I think about that question. One, working in cyber as the policy advisor to the commander of cyber forces and working in a senior position in counterterrorism. These are positions that are very male-dominated and yet need a wide variety of backgrounds and perspectives and points of view. I would say these 2 positions almost directly led to my last position, focused on diversity and inclusion and accessibility, because if you've got a very small group of people with similar backgrounds and ways of thinking, you are not going to get the widest array of opportunities, options of resolving issues. So those 2 things, being able to be in those spaces and be successful in those spaces as a woman, as an African-American woman, definitely a highlight as well. I'd say the third thing, of course, is working in the White House. The ability to serve the American people at the highest level. And I had 2 very important jobs while I was there. traveled with the president on occasion, President Clinton in this case. It was a thrill going to work every day, I have to say, yeah.
What was President Clinton like?
Like the rest, charismatic.
Yes.
Also very well known.
So that's a big must.
It's a big must. You've got to.
Yes.
He, I think, very similarly to President Obama, could think in paragraphs, if that makes sense to you. I mean, just thoughtful, well-reasoned, well-informed thoughts and policies immediately. Just really, really inspiring. For those of us who worked for both of these presidents, confidence. Confidence, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Hillary Clinton? Do you think she has a future in politics still?
Well, she is a brilliant woman. She was a highly successful Secretary of State. I would have to pause on that one to say I don't know what she wants for herself. Politics, public policy, these jobs are grueling. They are not 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour a day jobs. So you have got to have the energy and the focus and inclination to give up the other parts of life to do these jobs well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They ask a lot of us.
Absolutely. We're sort of speaking about the personal side. Can we go back to your childhood a bit? I know your mother was very influential in your life.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the decision making you took while you were following your education were influenced by her.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your childhood and the things that were important to you.
Yeah. My mom and my father, I will say both of them, really focused on public service in different ways. My father talked about the common weal, talked about, and I'm sitting up straighter as I think about it because he was quite strict, about our responsibility for the world beyond our immediate needs. My mom was a great volunteer, you know, in the neighborhood, for local politicians, for local causes, and really made all of us, my 3 siblings and I, get out to serve. I may have mentioned to you in our own conversations that my 3 siblings have all served in the military. We've all done public service. So this was something that was inculcated, told to us as a priority from the very beginning. And my mother was very curious about the world. She loved to travel. She delighted in my career as a diplomat. She just thought it was wonderful, and visited me at several posts, lived with me for a while when my children were very young, and urged me to get out and serve the wider world. So,
Yes.
yeah.
She sounds like a wonderful woman.
She had a great sense of humor, and a great deal of love for her children. Yeah.
And speaking about family, you're here with your husband.
Yes.
You were posted here in Malta with your husband. He's provided a lot of support to you. I think without that backbone, it wouldn't have been the same. What about your kids also? And how do they fit in? How have they fitted in the past? And what about today?
Yeah, yeah. Anyone with a career that is demanding, that takes more than just an 8-hour day, knows that you don't do it alone. You cannot. My husband would say, I haven't got the work-family life balance down yet. He says, I'm still working on it. But it was a full partnership. As soon as he said, I don't want to do this anymore, then we were going to stop doing this. And certainly, time to spend with my husband is a part of the reason why I'm stepping back. The children, when they were young, you know, you tuck them under your arm and you carry them with you. And their world is around mom and dad, so it didn't matter where we were. Certainly as they got older, more questioning, do we have to go there? Do I have to go there? Becomes part of the conversation, something to be negotiated within the family. They continue to be supportive of my work, of my career. They know how important it is to me. And in turn, I try and be supportive of them. So now we've got 4 adults that are negotiating time together, what any family does as your children get older. So far, so good.
Where are you based in the US today?
So today, it would be Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, Northern Ohio. For the last almost 2.5 years, I was commuting between Ohio and Washington, D.C., which was difficult. I will say it was difficult. But in Ohio, and then I will travel from there.
In today's busy life, what sort of advice would you give somebody who wants to find that balance between work, a very demanding job, and family life? You can do both, it seems.
You know, you can do both, but the balance is never going to be 50-50 on a steady basis. I think it was Anne-Marie Slaughter, Dr. Anne-Marie Slaughter, who said, you know, you can have it all, but not at the same time. So the partner becomes very important. Communication becomes very important. I think you may have seen Michelle Obama's interviews where she said there was a period when she hated her husband. She was carrying 95% of the weight. That will happen. There were times when my husband was in a position where he was traveling a great deal and I had to pick up the pieces at home. And I'm not nearly as good at it as he is. But the children survived, so there we are. Just lots of communication, honesty, and flexibility and forgiveness. Giving each other grace is absolutely key, because we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we've got to forgive.
To be more human, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
You've come back to Malta after quite a few number of years. What changes have you seen? There have been some changes since you've left.
Yeah. So I've just arrived and will be touring around more to see the country. What I noticed immediately, of course, was the beautiful sunshine and the gold that is this country. So that was very familiar and very comforting. I have been astounded, just as my drive from the airport and just a little bit around today, of course, at the construction. So building continues apace. I know this is a balance that the government struggles with. You know, you have people who want to come to such a beautiful place. It's certainly more diverse than when I left it. Those are challenges, but the Maltese people are up to that, just as the American people are. So I think you'll be fine with that. But it does take work, it does take focus, and it does take real effort to make sure that you give space for understanding each other and space for mistakes. So it is good to see that the country is vibrant. I, of course, read about it, you know, even from the United States. So I know, you know, a lot of, you know, the cyber and the blockchain and other things that Malta has been focused on, and of course a very important role you continue to play in the European Union. And so it's good. It's good.
Do you think, with regards to diversity and the construction, do you think we're evolving too fast?
You know, it's impossible to say. I think you're evolving as you must. As you must. I think many countries, including my own, we struggle with this. Is there too much change? Is the change too fast? Is it too many different elements at the same time? But we are human beings, we evolve, we change. You know, in the lifetime of my parents, my mother grew up in Ohio, where we're from, where she was looking for work, and it said in the newspaper, whites only. Imagine. And yet she lived to see the election of the first African-American president. So that change is coming. It's up to us to adapt to it, to make it work, to bring out the best from those changes. And as human beings, we've proven again and again that we can do that. So I'm very hopeful.
What about the future? Will you be returning here?
Of course. Of course. As I said, as soon as I got off the plane, how I felt lifted, I will always come back to Malta. The people, the gracious welcome that I had, working on so many important issues over time while I was here, and we continue, my successors continue to do good work and appreciate the relationship and the people of Malta. So, yes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining our program today.
My privilege.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.